Welcome to Friends and Fiction. 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories. Novelists Mary Kay Andrews, Kristen Harmel, Kristy Woodson Harvey, and Patty Callahan Henry are 4 longtime friends with more than 70 published books between them. Together, they host Friends and Fiction, with author interviews and fascinating insider talk about publishing and writing, to highlight and support independent bookstores. They discuss the books they've written, the books they're reading now, and the art of storytelling. If you love books and you're curious about the writing world, you're in the right place.
Hi, everyone. It's Wednesday night, and that means it's time for the happiest hour on the internet, Friends and Fiction. Welcome to our show as we celebrate the launch of my new novel, Christmas in Peachtree, Bluff. And we have a really amazing special guest for you tonight, Richard Paul Evans, the King of Christmas. We have so much to look forward to tonight. I'm Kristy Woodson Harvey.
I'm Patty Callahan Henry.
I'm Mary Kay Andrews.
I'm Kristen Harmel.
And this is Friends and Fiction, New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories to support independent bookstores. Tonight, because as the song says, we need a little Christmas right this very minute, we'll meet Richard Paul Evans and celebrate my new Christmas in Peachtree, Bluff.
Yay!
And for the past 5 weeks, we have partnered with Warwick's in beautiful La Jolla, California, as our featured independent bookseller. You know that we started this from the beginning to support independent booksellers. And Warwick's is the country's oldest continuously family-owned and operated bookstore. So they are our ideal dream partner for our mission here on Friends and Fiction. Browse their selection, which includes our books, as well as the latest by tonight's guest, Richard Paul Evans.
You know that every week we partner with Parade Magazine online. We stream from their Facebook page, and we have an original essay in their online magazine every week. This week, Kristy right here reflected on the year her family became the Griswolds of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, of course. You can find that essay linked to on our Facebook page and in our Instagram bio and on parade.com.
A few years ago that we got some really over-the-top Christmas decorations for our house. Some of you might know that my mom and I have an interior design blog called Design Chic, and it was really fun. We got to partner with this company, and they decorated our house to the max for Christmas. So you'll have to read to find out more, but it ended up a few years later kind of inspiring Christmas in Peachtree Bluff in some ways, and just made me remember how fun it is just sometimes to do something that's fun and a little bit different, and try on a life that's a little different from yours, even if it just means hundreds of thousands of twinkle lights. So I want to know, what is your favorite part of prepping for the holidays? MKA, can we start with you since you're a big holiday prepper? Don't say no to me. It's my launch night.
You did use the word no.
I would never. Okay, so if you know me, you know that my theory of decorating is too much is just enough.
Yeah.
So I go totally overboard with decorating our house with bins and bins of vintage Christmas treasures that I have been hoarding for decades. I put on my favorite Phil Spector Christmas album, and I wait for the moment when Darlene Love sings Christmas Baby Please Come Home, my favorite. And then I fling the shiny bright ornaments and the bottle brush trees and the paper mache snowmen and the Santas and the elves and plaid everything all over the house. And then I'm happy.
And then you have a party and we come.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I like that last part.
I like that too.
Yeah, for us, it's just setting the stage in the house. It's the fire crackling in the fireplace, which I know you guys don't believe me because I live in Florida, but it does get chilly here and we have a fireplace. So, we wait till it gets to like 65 degrees. We're like, ooh, it's fire.
It's like 85 today. You can see by my outfit.
It is.
The fireplace is made of cardboard, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, it
Yeah.
really is. It's a nice
And
old
it
brick
makes
fireplace.
and it makes a crackling sound, but it's not real.
Yeah.
I'm just
You guys
kidding.
let me believe in my fireplace, okay? No, but for us, it's not really Christmas until we've done the rounds of the Disney hotels. We get on the monorail and we go to the Grand Floridian, the Polynesian, and the Contemporary, the 3 that are on the monorail track, and they all decorate beautifully for the holidays, including a life-size gingerbread house at the Grand Floridian. So we do that. We drink our hot chocolate. We listen to Christmas carols, and then it's Christmas.
I'm here too early. We
You're
could have done that
too
tonight.
early, but we're hoping she sees some fireworks tonight. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. For us, it's just, decorating, stockings on the mantle, Amy Grant's Christmas in Tennessee playing in the background, and sparkly lights everywhere. And by January, my kids plead, can you stop with the Christmas music already? Because that is the only thing allowed in the house from Thanksgiving till January 1st is fun Christmas music.
Me too.
And then you know what happens? Your kids get older and they lose some of their cynicism and they say, hey, Mom, what happened to that little thing that you used to, that little guy that used to put, and you're like, what?
Santa whose hips dance.
Yeah.
I have, like, Mom used to put this little, there was this little tree and it was like porcelain, but it had these little holes in it and had lights inside it.
Oh yeah, those are in now.
You know? Yeah. And I'm like, I'm sitting here thinking, whatever happened to that? Like, why is it not in my bathroom?
Yeah.
Mom, I hope you're looking for that right now.
Okay, now speaking of celebrations, we have to pause for a moment to toast for both Patty and Kristy. Patty's book, I almost out of wine already, came out last week. And Kristy's is out this week, and launch weeks, they're hard on authors. Especially as for those authors who work as hard as Patty and Kristy do on the road. And we know that from personal experience because we've been with them.
Yeah.
So let's raise a toast, a glass to these beautiful wintry books and the authors who wrote them. Clink.
Cheers. Okay, now let's talk about our guest, Richard Paul Evans. Richard is not just a New York Times bestselling author, but a #1 New York Times bestselling author and USA Today bestselling author of more than just a teeny weeny bit, 40 novels.
Wow.
He is, in fact, there are more than 35 million copies of his books in print worldwide. That's 3 and then 5, not 3.5. Translated into more than 24 different languages. Richard has won the American Mother's Book Award, the Romantic Times Best Women's Novel of the Year Award, the German Lesper blah 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 Award for romance. I took college German, okay, and
it paid off
in a big way.
Yeah, I forgot University of Georgia. That makes all the sense.
That explains it. Okay.
Okay, there are also 2 first-place Storytelling World Awards. He's also a 5-time recipient of the Religion Communicators Council's Wilbur Award.
Richard also founded the Christmas Box International, which is an organization devoted to maintaining emergency children's shelters and providing services and resources for abused, neglected, or homeless children, teens, and young adults. As a result of his humanitarian work, Richard has received the Washington Times Humanitarian of the Century Award.
Wow.
And the Volunteers of America National Empathy Award.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
He currently lives in Salt Lake City with his wife, Carrie, and their children and grandchildren. His heartwarming new novel, The Christmas Promise, will be released next month. We're so excited to have Richard with us today. Sean, can you bring him on, please? Hi, welcome, Richard.
Hi, Richard.
We are so glad.
Patty and Kristy, congratulations on your book.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, we're so happy to have you here tonight. And as you told us backstage, we'd love for you to shed a little light on this for our audience, because we've been talking about, all these printing problems and paper shortages and things like that happening. And that really actually happened to you. So will you tell us a little bit about The Christmas Promise and a little bit about the printer delays?
Well, they were going to release the book on November 2nd, which is Election Day, not the best day to release. And but we got all ready for it. And my assistant/publicist, we had more than 300 events set up. And then we got 2 weeks ago, we got noticed that my book was that the supply chain demand had bumped it, and it bumped it a week. So it was going to come out November 9th. So she had to call all the interviews, she had to call just everything and change it. So she changed it, and no lie, the day she finished changing everything, the day after, we got a call and they said, we are bumping your book again. We can't have books in time. And so November 23rd is coming out the week of Thanksgiving. And my agent, of course, went ballistic. It's like it's not my it's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's like they can't get books. There's not enough people working. There's not. It's like if we don't have a book, we don't have a book. So.
Wow.
What a nightmare.
That's so terrible.
Yeah.
But my first book, The Christmas Box, because I self-published it, and it sold out. I had done I think we had done like 12,000 copies, or I did 7,000 copies. It sold out, and then the 1st of December, 10,000 more hit the streets, and they sold out in 3 days just locally. And I had all these ads running and everything, and it's like, well, you can't buy the book. I told them, it's like, thanks for buying it, but you can't buy the book. And people, like 2 women got in a fist fight over the last copy of a book. and what I learned is, you really want to sell a book, tell people they can't have it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So I told people that it's like, this book, if it sells out before Christmas, they printed a lot of copies, but if it sells out before Christmas, you either get an ebook or you're out of luck. And so the pre-orders have been really high. So it might be a good thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good, you gotta make lemonade sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So good for you for doing that.
Yeah.
Well, can you tell us a little about the Christmas Promise, please?
Yeah, Christmas Promise. I took a Bible story of the prodigal son, and I made it the prodigal daughters. There's these two. They call them, it's Rochelle and Michelle, and they go by Ricky and Mickey. They're identical twins who haven't spoken to each other in 8 years. And Rochelle, who the story is told from, she is the studious. She's a PICU nurse. She's very intense, and her sister Michelle just likes to play and party. And so, like, right after they graduated from high school, Rochelle went off to college, and Michelle, of course, went to tour Europe, and with a boyfriend. And so it's their story. It's about finding what true love really is. And what has happened is her sister has died, and she never got to make up. And so, one day she's at her book writing club, and this man shows up, and it's a love story. And he helps her start to see that maybe things aren't the way she thought they were. And so it's fun taking what was a Bible story. I think most people won't notice it, but really focusing on the older son, that maybe the older son is the bigger problem than the younger son. In this case.
The one who took off.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, and so it's, I was, when I finished the book, I thought, I wonder if anyone will like this. It's gotten really great national reviews, and that's always a good thing. I wasn't sure why. It's like, and so people are really liking it. If only they could actually get it out there, that'd be fun.
If they could read it, they would really like it.
They might. I hope they do. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm always scared. It's like, maybe this is the book that ruins me.
Yeah.
I get that every single time.
Remember Notting Hill, when Julia Roberts says that, and they'll discover I can't act.
Yeah.
And it's always like, okay, I've written 42 New York Times bestsellers, but maybe this is one to realize I really can't write after all.
They're going to pull the plug on me. I know they are.
Yeah. Thought every time. Yeah. Okay, so Richard, you have this great line in the book. The father tells the girls, he gives them these necklaces, right? And he says, these opals look identical, but the fire inside each is completely unique, just like the two of you. So these two women, though, are at odds when one of them, as you just mentioned, is dying. And suddenly the other one is left to spend a lifetime, essentially, trying to atone for these sins in a way. Why did you choose this theme to focus on? Why did you choose this biblical inspiration? And why did this story strike a chord with you in a way that made sense to retell for Christmas?
Well, as a newly born again Christian, I'm fascinated with the concept of grace and the idea. I really used to think I was a pretty good guy, and to all of a sudden realize that maybe I'm not as good as I think I am, and that I'm broken, and then to be free from judging others has been an incredible release. And that's really what the book is about. It's about accepting others and saying, look, I'm broken, admitting it, it's broken. That none of us are as good as we think we are, and then to take that same grace and apply it to others, and then you start to see love as it really is. And so the end does, people are crying at the end of it. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. There was a line at the end of this book that absolutely took my breath away. Have you ever had that happen? It's like, oh my gosh, you did not say that. You did not. And my agent said the same thing. She goes, it dropped me to the floor when I read that. She goes, I couldn't believe it. I go, I know it's intense. But every now and then you get these little gifts. And it's like this one line, and you'll know it. You'll know when you hit it, because you're like, I can't believe that just happened. And people just start crying. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's amazing. Those little gifts are what keep us writing, right?
Exactly.
Because if we didn't get that happening once in a while where we surprise ourselves, we'd probably quit altogether, because as our Mary Kay says, the self-loathing would finally win out. But your novels are Christmas stories, absolutely. But as you just said, they pack a tremendous emotional punch. From your very first novel, The Christmas Box, which you self-published, and then it took off. You said you wrote it as a Christmas gift. It's about a woman who mourns the death of her child, to The Christmas Promise, 26 years later, when twins are parted by death. Your novels have a lot to do with happiness and a lot to do with joy. And yet at the same time, there is this immense toll of grief and how we heal from that. Why does that message resonate with you? Because you started there, and then this one has the same things.
Well, when, after I wrote the first book, I didn't want to be typecast. And so I started to move away and write different books. I did the Christmas Box. I thought, well, how do I follow up a book that's a #1 international bestseller? And there's a lot of pressure. And so I wrote Timepiece, and it was a movie. And it's like, I stuck with it and wrote kind of a trilogy. And then I moved up. It's like, I don't want to be the Christmas guy. And my sales were really high, back in those days. They were so high, but they were falling every year a little bit, just a little bit. It's like, okay, I peaked young. I was 29. And then I thought, with one of my books, I barely hit the New York Times bestseller list. I thought, okay, maybe I just have one more book. And so I wrote, I thought, I'm going to write a Christmas book again. And that book was called Finding Noel. It absolutely exploded. They went back for an extra 100,000 copies the first week. And it's like, you know what? Maybe you should dance with who brought you to the dance. And so I thought, I love Christmas. I don't need to be ashamed of Christmas. And so I just embraced it and leaned into it. And that's what's happened. So some of the books are more Christmassy, is that a word, than others. Sometimes the Christmas is just a setting. And sometimes it's a deeper meaning, because, as Dickens says, sometimes Christmas to me is a time when we can look at each other as fellow passengers to the grave. And hopefully we look at each other with a little more humanity. And so that's why I like the scene. I think Christmas gives a lot of that. And so I always make at least a nod, to Christmas in my books.
Well, the theme is always there, but you definitely bring people to tears. So, I mean, maybe it's because Christmas does open us up in different ways than any other time of the year. Christmas is when our hearts are a little softer towards family and loss and hope. But I've always liked trying to figure out why things hit the way they hit. Mm-hmm. And Christmas novels do that, and yours even more so.
Thank you.
I just wanted to remind everyone really quickly that if you have any questions for Richard, you can drop them in the chat, and we will hopefully have time to take one or two of those from you guys. But I have a question for you right now, Richard. What is it, you've made a name for yourself, as you said, as the king of Christmas fiction, and, have really sort of leaned into that. So what is it that appeals to you so much about writing about the holiday season? And how have you managed to keep each of these news stories so fresh?
Well, every book has a different theme. I had the chance when my first book hit it big, and my publisher was like, "Yeah, anything you want." I said, "Well, I want to have lunch with Mary Higgins Clark."
Yeah.
And so they set up a lunch, and she was delightful. And but I asked her something. I said, "Okay, you've been doing this a long time. and all your books are bestsellers. How come you're still around? What is your secret? And she said, I look at every book as the best book I ever wrote.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, I'm going to write the best book I can. And sometimes, the magic happens. Sometimes it doesn't as much. But I thought of that integrity. And it's like, okay, every book is going to be the best book I can write. And that, if that means I'm writing in the middle of the night, then, that's what that's what happens. And you bleed through it. And that's why. But so Christmas is, again, it's just kind of a niche I fell into. And when the New York Times coronated me the king of Christmas fiction, it's like, well, let's grab that.
Yeah. I'll put that crown on. Thank you very much. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I think it's a pretty good one. I like that title a lot. Mary Kay, do you have a question?
I do. We touched on this a little bit before everybody came on. But in addition to your success as an author, you have not one, not two, not three, but 4 movies made out of your books. And we're wondering what role you've had in bringing your books to life in the movies. And also, I know you shared with us that you have some news about a feature film coming up. So if you would talk a little bit about that and what your role is in the transformation from your book to the film.
Okay, so I actually have 8 movies.
Oh
my gosh!
I can't count.
Somebody on your website.
I need to update my website. Yeah, but I'm very excited. I have my first feature film, and it stars Justin Hartley of This Is Us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He's the executive producer, and Charles Shire, who, if you look him up, I've seen at least 5 of his major movies. He does a lot with Steve Martin, and anyway, I'm very excited to see it. I haven't seen it yet, but that comes out next year. But up to that point, I don't know, Mary Kay, they didn't give me that much connection. And when I did my first book, I sold the Christmas box to a little local producer, Bonneville, who then turned it to CBS. I mean, they were going to change the name of it. And all of a sudden they paid me, like $30,000 or $17,000 for it. And as the reporter from TV Guide said, it's like, you kind of lost $1 million on it. And I go, yeah, but I was a kid. I was pretty excited. And they changed a lot. They were going to change the name of it, and all of a sudden they have the #1 book in the nation. And I remember I'm doing an interview. And I knew better than to trash my book, but they made some changes that I never would have made. And I remember the reporter for TV Guide just kept goading me, like, well, didn't you hate this? Didn't you hate this? And you knew she'd already written the story. And finally said, look, I would have done it different. Well, then she turns into he hates the movie, and then I get called by the director who screams at me, and it was horrible. And it's like, it is what it is. And we're talking about possibly doing a remake of the Christmas box after all these years. Mm-hmm. And but so I really had very little connection. I used to do cameos, like I have one with Rob Lowe and Christopher Lloyd, and I did a cameo. Awesome. And my kids mocked me. They laughed so hard, because if you've ever seen Pee Wee Herman, when he walks through the end of the movie, he's looking at the camera, that was totally me. And they're like, oh my gosh, someone here does not belong on this set. And I said, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. My kids are going to make fun of me. So other than that, I don't really have a lot of contact or connection on it, which is it's actually kind of okay. They just filmed my daughter's movie in Rome, and she was upset that she wasn't on the set. And it's like, actually it was Florence, Italy. And it's like they kind of do their own thing, and some are closer to others. Hallmark has bought a lot of my things, and they have a formula, and they change a lot of it, but they have a formula that's successful, and it is what it is.
Would you talk to us about what you're working on now, and if that's already been optioned for the movies?
Well, Christmas Promise, I talked to the producer last week, who's done 6 of my movies, and he loves it. And he got another producer involved. It's like, we want this. So they're the ones who got Noel Dowry turned into a feature. He goes, this thing I think it's going to be really big. So that's where we are, but that's neither here nor there. If it happens, it happens.
Yeah, if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's like, I write. I'm a book writer. I love writing books, and I don't write for TV or movies. That's what I do. So
That's awesome.
But it's fun. I mean, it's fun to see it, and it's kind of cool because I have the family over and we all sit down and watch it. And then when my name comes up on the screen, based on the book by Richard Paul Evans, they all clap, and then it's good. We can turn it off now if we want.
And you get your own IMDb page, which my children are impressed with.
Yeah.
Yep,
that's
right.
funny. It's funny.
Well, I think that we are going to take a few live questions now. We're really, we have a lot of questions coming in for you from our readers. So, Kristen, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Richard, Jen O'Brien wants to know, and I think this is great since you just mentioned your daughter. What's it like having your daughter as a writer? Do you give her fatherly encouragement? And would you ever do a joint book or some sort of writing project with her?
Oh, Jen, first of all, I think it was a little bit hard for her. She was my writing assistant, and through two of my series, The Walk and the Michael Vey series. And the Michael Vey series is an international bestseller. It's huge, and she really helped me a lot. And that's when I told her after 8 years, and Jen actually studied this. She went to ASU and studied literature, and where I just started writing. I was an ad guy. And I said, Jenna, you hear the music, as Stephen King says. You hear it. You could write. And she really actually resisted it. And finally, she wrote a book called Carolina, and her writing was wonderful. In the book, there was no book there. There's no plot, as she said. And she sent it to an agent, to my agent, took it and didn't do anything with it. And it's like, she goes, this is too hard. And I would never, you know what it's like, ladies. I would never put a child into that much pressure if she wasn't good. It'd be like grabbing your kid and throwing him in the NFL and throwing him out there. It's like, hey, go play football. I can get you in. And then they're going to get killed the first game.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not going to emotionally do that to my daughter, but it's like, Jenna, you're good enough. And she kind of didn't do anything. And so I told her, she wrote me, she goes, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. And I go, no, you are cut out for this. And so I contacted my publisher and said, look, I know writing, this gal can write. She has no editor, she needs some direction. And that's when she wrote Love and Gelato. And the book sold, I think it sold 10 times what they expected. It's huge.
Wow.
It's huge. I was just in Beverly Hills and their books were all over on a shelf, which makes me so happy. They didn't even have mine. But nowhere in the books does she mention me. There's no connection. No one's ever made that. And so it's sad that some of the local writers aren't, they don't really include her because it's like, oh, she's there because of her dad. It's like, no, she's not. She's there because she's talented.
Wow.
And she continues to. She wrote 2 other follow-up best-selling books. But as a young woman with children, and his son with he has autism, and it's very challenging. There's times she goes, Dad, it's not worth it. Maybe I should write later. And so I have nothing but admiration for you, how difficult it is to be a mother and to write. And it was really, really hard. And she bleeds through them. And she has seen me bleed. I mean, she once said to me, Dad, do you think your readers have any idea how hard you work? It was like 4 a.m. we're writing. She goes, do you have any idea? And I said, no. They don't know but they have at least 250,000 other books they could choose instead of mine. So when they pick it up, they know. It's like they deserve that. And so she took that same work ethic. I mean, I come from a strange kind of family. My dad had a master's degree in social work, but he was also a building contractor. And so we're always out Saturday morning building, right? So I have a blue collar work ethic, but we talk philosophy. And so it created kind of a weird dynamic, chimera. So Jenna's that same way, but she struggles with it. Like, is it really worth it? It hurts to write. And people don't, I mean, maybe it doesn't for you, but I just have a lot of empathy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very, very proud of her. I'm very proud of her, and just watching the cool things happen with her books. And the bigger thing is she was like this. I don't read. I'm not a big reader, and that sounds awful. I have Tourette syndrome and OCD and ADHD and OCD, and because of that, it's hard. I was always put in the slowest reading groups, and which sounds weird for a writer. Jen was the opposite. She read Gone with the Wind 3 times when she was 9 years old.
Wow.
And so she wrote the book that she wanted to write because she had read every young adult book that existed.
Wow.
And in fact, we would punish her for reading. That's how bad it was. It's like, you go out of your room now. Out of your room, young lady. You know? Yeah. So that was her background. So she is, in that sense, much more literate than I am.
That's awesome. You must be proud.
Yeah, you clearly are, and that's really nice
Yeah,
to see.
it
That's
is.
I think
It
you've
is.
spent more time talking about your daughter and her book than your own. So
Than your own. I know.
Yeah. Well, you have been such a great guest. But before you take off, would you mind giving us a writing tip, please? You've certainly written your fair share of amazing bestsellers, and we could use a little tip. So if you could just,
Yeah, the most important thing I would share with anyone who wanted to be a writer is my personal epiphany. After I wrote the Christmas box, here I have a book that sold, more than 8 million copies. I mean, it was just huge. It was just, and then I'm writing the next book, and I know that everyone has their laser pointers on me. They want to destroy me. You can feel it. You can see it. They're getting ready to attack, and I am under so much pressure. And it's like, okay, we're going to pay you millions of dollars to write another bestseller. And I keep trying to write it. And after 6 months, I have nothing. And one day I'm out writing, and that's when I had the epiphany that changed my life. I realized I don't know how to write a bestseller. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because when I wrote the Christmas box, I didn't write it for millions of people. I wrote it for my 2 little girls to understand something very, very personal. And so I stopped writing for the world, and I started writing for myself. I started to write something that I thought mattered. And I thought, they're going to hate this. It's not going to do well, but it doesn't matter. It's me. It's all I know. And so I wrote, instead of trying to write broad, I wrote very small. And then the next book was a huge bestseller. And every book has been that way since then. And I'm always surprised when I write something that's very, very personal, how many people, whether it's a father in Tokyo, or the book got smuggled into somewhere in Iran. I have contraband books in Iran. I have a huge book club in Iran, and they like copied they stole them. they're in Farsi, and that's like, wow, that's kind of cool though. And it's like I just write what matters to me, and what we find is that we really have a lot in common, a lot more than we think we do.
Yeah,
that's a great tip, and I think
write what matters to you.
Good advice.
Yeah,
What matters to you, and that is a great way to get to an authentic story. Well, you have been such a great guest. We are so honored to have the king of the Christmas story on our show.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your advice with us, and we cannot wait to read the new book, November 23rd.
Show the cover. Yeah, it's beautiful cover.
You like that?
Show it again. It's a gorgeous cover.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Mary Kay, we got on. Mary Kay said, "Well, I have a copy of that book." It's like, what? How did you get my book? And I don't have a copy of it. Yeah.
You can tell who's most important here.
Not me.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
again
Thank
for
you,
being
Richard.
with us.
Thanks for joining
My
us.
pleasure. Thank you.
Take care. We'll look for the book. Can't wait.
That was great.
Yeah.
So great.
All right. Buckle up, buttercups. It's launch night for Kristy's Christmas in Peachtree, Bluff. And we are here to celebrate.
What is that situation?
Okay, this is
That.
is a beautiful hat sent to me by
I am
my
going to beg to differ on this situation.
But wait till you hear what it says, Patty. What does it say?
I'm taking it off now because this is not about silly hats. This is about a beautiful
Oh my
Christmas
gosh.
book called Christmas
Okay.
in Peachtree Bluff.
But okay.
I love it. I love it. I was not expecting it, and I wanted to see what it said. What did
We'll
it say?
talk later.
What does
Tell her
it
what
say,
it
Mary
says.
Kay?
No, we'll talk later. We're going to talk about Christmas in Peachtree
Okay,
Bluff.
well, you better stay tuned for the after show.
Okay,
That's right.
we're not getting
Come
off
on, stay
until
for
I
the
know what
after
that
show.
said. Okay. Christmas in Peachtree Bluff is the 4th installment in Kristy's beloved, enchanting, marvelous, wonderful Peachtree Bluff series. Just came out yesterday. And the 4 of us actually got to spend the whole weekend together celebrating all of our recent releases with 4 tour dates across Florida. Look at us. We had so much fun. Can we go back?
I miss you
I
guys
know.
already.
I know.
I know.
And there's Meg.
I
There
know,
she
but
is.
Meg was with us too. It was so great. Oh, I
Um,
already feel sad that we're not
I
together.
know.
Kristy and I are together.
Yeah, we're together. So
You know,
don't-
Obviously.
I mean, don't be offended. You're sad. I'm right
I'm
here,
so
Kristen.
sad. I have no one here that I love. I don't know. No, of course, my Kristy. No, I love her. Okay, I'm the only one of the three of you others who did not have a wintry release this year. But hearing these ladies talk about their books over the last few days has fully plunged me into that Christmas spirit, which is hard because it's 85 degrees out, as Kristy pointed out. So, Kristy, I just finished your book last week, and I cannot wait to talk about it with you tonight.
Thank you, Kristen.
Okay, let's get started. Kristy, I mean, I know what it's about because I not only read it early, I blurbed it, but you tell us about Christmas in Peachtree Bluff and what inspired this story.
I know you guys are I know the three of you are really happy to get to hear this again.
We don't know.
No, it's brand new.
What's it about?
Before I say that, I have to tell everybody, and hopefully you guys follow along with us on our social media. And so if you do, you know that I've been on tour since last Monday. And so I was, celebrating Patty's launch with her, Once Upon a Wardrobe, and we've been just all over the place. And I feel like this book has been out for like a month, and it came out yesterday. So I'm like, tonight, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're finally celebrating the launch. This is so great. But Christmas in Peachtree Bluff is the fourth book in my Peachtree Bluff series, but it also can be read as a standalone. A few years have elapsed since the last book came out. So you should be able to just dive right in if you haven't read the rest of the series. But the holiday season is heading toward Peachtree Bluff, and so is the storm of the century in the form of a really giant hurricane. And Sloan, Emerson, and Caroline, who are three grown sisters, all head back to Peachtree Bluff, Georgia to see their mother, Ansley, with their big families in tow. And while they are there, Caroline, who's the eldest daughter, confides in her mother that her daughter, Vivi, who is 15, and is having some 15-year-old behavior for sure, is just giving her such a hard time. And she's sort of at her wit's end with her daughter. And, online school is a thing. And so she says, Mom, could you just keep her until Christmas? And if she's in Peachtree Bluff and everything's magical and she's with you, and maybe she'll be happy and she won't hate me so much. And, we can all have a better holiday season that way. And so Ansley, being the doting mother and grandmother that she is, agrees. But Vivi's bad behavior ends up getting herself and her family stuck on the island of Peachtree Bluff during the storm of the century. I mean, Jim Cantori's there.
I was just going to say Jim
You took
Cantori.
the words out of my mouth.
Jinx.
That's when they know things are dire.
Yes, when Jim Cantori comes. Somebody texted me today, like one of my friends from home, and she said her sister texted her and was like, oh, the storm stud. Have y'all heard him called that?
No, that's
No.
Never.
I was like, I
Stud.
wish she'd said that earlier. I would have called him the storm stud in the book. But anyway, our buddy Jim.
I've never heard that.
Me neither.
Hashtag storm stud.
Storm
Okay.
stud. Maybe we should tag him in a post that says that. Yeah, we're getting off track. Anyway, Jim Cantori is in Peachtree Bluff, which means it's bad because he only goes to the worst places. And so
Exactly.
they get,
Wilder. You
yeah,
never want Jim Cantori to come to your
come
town.
to your town. That's so true. And so they are they get stuck in Peachtree Bluff, and it is up to, and they have not provisioned for this hurricane, by the way. So it's up to Sloan, Emerson, and Caroline to not only rescue their family, but also to put Peachtree Bluff back together again, just in time for Christmas.
And now you, Kristy, you had a little personal experience that inspired this story, right?
Yes, I did. Thank you for asking.
You're
Another
so welcome.
story for all of you. Yes. So a few years ago, Hurricane Florence came sweeping through Carteret County, where I live, and did just tons and tons of damage to the whole county, including my house. So we were out of our house for about 18 months, and we lived in 11 different places. It was lovely. And
They kept kicking you out?
yeah.
It's a bad house.
Well,
guys.
when you don't pay rent.
That's why she's staying in a hotel tonight rather than my house. I'm like, I've heard things.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't have her over here.
I
I forgot I did have her here.
No, but it was so crazy because so many places were had so much damage, and so people would say like, "Oh, you can go rent our house, or you can stay at our house," and we would get there, and there would be like black mold all over the ceilings, and like they had no idea because they hadn't been home to see their storm damage. But because of like the rental seasons and stuff, there we would like go stay at a place, and then there'd be a VRBO coming in or something like that. So we moved around a lot, and it was just crazy. And anyway, I'm glad that's kind of behind us. But yeah, so I knew what it was like to sort of put a house back together and put a town back together after a storm. But what I was really fascinated about was, what about the people that stayed? I mean, we evacuated for that hurricane, obviously. I mean, if anytime mandatory evacuation is mentioned, like, I'm out of there. I am not being stuck. And so, but there were a lot of people that didn't, that said, we've ridden out every hurricane and we're not leaving. And we had lots of friends that stayed. And I think everyone knew how bad the storm was going to be, but no one knew how long it was going to last. And it was actually a couple weeks before we were able to get back to even see the damage to our house. So, people were running out of supplies and food and water. And I mean, we were calling friends and saying, like, go to our house. We have bottled water and vodka and, all the things that you need when your power's been out for 2 weeks. And so, I really just was interested in what it would be like to have been one of the people that stayed behind. And I knew for a long time that I wanted to write a book about that. I thought that would be an interesting story, but I knew it was a Peachtree Bluff story. And I wasn't going to write any more Peachtree Bluff books. So it wasn't until Christmas of 2020 when I thought, I really want to write a Christmas book, that I sort of took the storm idea and the Christmas book idea and put them together into one little Peachtree Bluff package tied with a bow.
A red bow, a pink bow.
A gold bow.
I know you said that this was a book you wrote for your Peachtree Bluff readers and fans. And I remember you put a call out on your Facebook page. So I want you to talk about how your readers influenced what you ended up writing, because we talk a lot on here about our community and how much our readers mean to us. But they are a big reason that you returned to Peachtree Bluff again. And were you thinking about them when you were writing it?
Absolutely. So The Southern Side of Paradise came out in 2019. That was what was going to be my last Peachtree Bluff book. And you know how when you finish any book, even if you're meaning it for it to be a standalone, you get those messages from people. Please write another book. Yep. Please write a sequel, that kind of thing. And, most of the time you're thinking, no, I'm not going to do that. And it was like that with The Southern Side of Paradise. People would say, oh, we love this family. Please go back to Peachtree. When's the next Peachtree coming out? And I would say something vague, but what I meant was, I'm never writing more Peachtree Bluff. And so in 2020, I mean, during like the real kind of dark days of the pandemic, it was weird because it had been a while, and, I had another book already out and another one coming, and Peachtree Bluff was a little bit in my rearview mirror, even though I loved it. But I just sort of got this uptick in people saying again, like, I've reread the series. Will you write another book in the series? And, like, kind of a lot of them. And like, actually my publisher was getting some too. And so it was something that we had talked about, and I kind of joked about, like, what is this? This is so weird. People want to go back to Peachtree Bluff. Yeah. And so when I got the idea for the story, I knew I wanted to pitch it, but I really wasn't sure, if my publisher would say yes, because I thought they might be completely done with Peachtree Bluff. They don't want to go back. And so when I pitched the idea, I was going to go back and like take some emails and but then I thought, like, feels kind of personal. Like, I don't want to take people's emails and like send them, to my publisher. So I went on Facebook and said, who wants to go back to Peachtree Bluff for Christmas? And I think it was the most popular Facebook post I've ever had, which was really fun. And so I sent that post in with my email of my pitch for the book. And, I mean, I really think it had a lot to do with, just seeing that people really wanted to do it and to go back really had a lot to do with it. But then, people really did. They would send me like, I want to make sure that so-and-so's in this book, or that such and such happens in this book, because it had been a few years. So people had things they wanted to know and like where people had been. And so at some point I started to feel all this pressure, because I was like, this really and truly, I mean, I wanted to write the book. I had a good idea. I thought I had a good idea for the story. Yeah. But I wanted to make sure, like, I was like, this is a book I'm writing for readers, really, more than anything. Yeah. So I want to make sure that they get what they want. And every now and then I would go on Facebook and I'd be like, okay, I'm working on Christmas in Peachtree Bluff. What do you absolutely want to see in this book? And it wasn't like plot points or anything, but it was more like, Coffee Kyle better be in this one, or, we want to make sure that, we see the dogs, or, whatever it was. Like, people had really specific things they wanted to see. And I think I worked them all into the book.
Awesome. Oh, that's awesome.
like a book by committee.
I
Really.
love it. You crowdsourced it.
Well, I mean, I know that our readers influence what we write, and we think about them, and we wonder, so you just took it more directly. It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, and it's nice too, because it was the world you created. So you were just asking people to remind you of the things that were beautiful and important about that world, which I think is awesome. And then you put it all in.
No, I mean, it was fun. And there wasn't anything like too outlandish that anyone was like, oh, we must see. It was all it was things that I was like, okay, got that. But it was funny because now I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was something in there. Oh, I do know what it was, but I'm not going to say because it might ruin it for people who haven't read it yet. But there was a character that I put in the book that my editor was kind of like, I don't really know that we need this character in there. Like, I know they're important in the first books, but time has passed and it's not really related to the family anymore. And I was like, no, I've gotten so many emails asking like what happened to this guy. Like, no, we are going to let people know what happened to him. So it really was. It was like, writing.
Oh, I know what happened to him.
Was it
No,
Jim
I
Kid?
can't. No, you don't want me to say.
It was Jim. I don't want to say anything.
Jim Kid, sorry.
I'm really regretting. I kind of wanted to ask Jim Cantori if he would come on the show tonight.
I think something like catastrophic would have happened to the show, and it would have been your fault.
Is he the storm? Is he the storm stud or the hurricane hunk? Which is it?
Ooh, the hurricane
on MK, the alliteration. Count on you. Always.
Okay, we've got live questions coming in. Debbie Cooperman Stone, Kristy wants to know, there are so many more stories you could write about Peachtree Bluff. Are you going to go there? Literally go there again?
Maybe. I might. I mean, it's funny how once you get back into something, like as I was writing that book, I was like, oh, I know the next story in the series. So, I mean, I'm not saying no. It was so fun to go back there, and I get the allure of writing a series because you know the characters, know the town. Yeah. It's like visiting with old friends. I don't want to like play it out, like I always want to make sure that I'm writing like my next best book, but I kind of think I have a really good idea for another Peachtree Bluff book. So, I mean, it's possible that I might write another one, but in the meantime, I mean, The Wedding Veil comes out in March. I'm working on something for 2023. I mean, not literally right now while on the road. But although, y'all, 300 events. Richard was doing.
Did I hear him right? I was thinking I didn't hear him right.
I think he must have meant virtuals too. Though.
Yeah, he must have meant
amounts.
Yeah, but 300.
I need a nap thinking about it.
I know.
Oh, I mean, I think I have like 30, and it's a lot.
No, I think you have about 300.
It feels like 300. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, it's amazing. Wow. But so, yes, so there could be more Peachtree Bluff, and, time will tell. But if there is, it will be a couple of years from now. It will not be like, I'm not going to write, 14 more Peachtree books in a row or anything like that. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see how Christmas in Peachtree Bluff goes.
It's going great already.
This one, exactly.
Amazing already. Okay, Jenny Adams wants to know, did you interview people who stayed during a hurricane instead of evacuating?
I mean, I kind of didn't have to because I'm trying to like think of something to equate it to. But I mean, but you guys know, like if you've lived through something like that, like when you come home, everyone's telling their stories. It's kind of like even now already, like everyone's talking about, their last trip they took before the pandemic, or like where they were like 2 days before the shutdown and they had to scramble. It's like that kind of, so everyone's telling their story about what happened during the hurricane. And so I just had so many people just happenstance talking about, all the things that happened when they stayed. And also, I mean, I didn't stay during that storm, but I mean, I had been through some hurricanes before, in Beaufort and other places, and tornadoes, and I think that's what made Florence so bad. And you'll see that kind of in the story. It wasn't just a hurricane; it was a hurricane with tornadoes, and that's what ended up happening to our house. It wasn't even really the hurricane; it was a tornado. So, it's kind of interesting, but it would definitely be scary to live through. And I tell you what, I'm glad that I was not there.
Yeah, you evacuated. Yeah.
So, Kristy, Deborah Devlin Beauvais says, I got to know you through Friends and Fiction and found the Peachtree Bluff series. I'm so happy you've written another book. Thank you. So that's a sweet comment.
Thanks.
And Karen Delari would like to know, this is actually a question for her husband, she says. He's curious to know if you're willing to share how much creative freedom do you have with writing your books versus the influence or direction from a publisher or editor?
A whole lot. I mean, I think we would, it's kind of for all of us. So
yeah,
I think we would all say that though. Yeah. And I don't think they put a whole lot of emphasis on, I mean, I don't think they have a whole lot of, I'm not saying they don't have the ability to have a lot of input on what we write. They do. But I think they generally tend to kind of leave that up to us, which is really cool. And I mean, I think there's certainly, if they don't think it's a good idea, you're probably never going to start writing the book to begin with.
Right.
Yes. So sorry. So to back up, if it's just you're pitching an idea and they're like, well, that's not going to work, that certainly happens. But I think once we're kind of in, they, and I think we all are at a point where we have editors that we trust and we want their opinion and we like to know what they think. And we're reading from our one perspective.
Yes.
And so to get to have these other people's perspectives from someone that you really, really trust is very helpful.
Well, didn't you ask them, Kristy, what do you think? And they immediately went, yes. Your editor. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I was shocked. I mean, that really, really surprised me because I had thrown around the idea at the end of Southern Side of Paradise of like, what if we wrote what do you think? Like, should we end Peachtree Bluff? Should we do more? And I felt ready to end it at that point, but I thought, what if I come back there one day? And my editor at the time said, I think you should totally go back to Peachtree Bluff, but I think it should be a different family. And I was like, yeah, I don't really have any interest in that. Like the Murphys to me were kind of Peachtree Bluff at that moment, and I didn't really have any interest. So, fast forward a couple of years, and I thought the answer could be, no, we're kind of finished with Peachtree Bluff. Let's move forward. I really truly, I think when I tell the story now, I sound like I was more confident in it than I really was. My agent thought it was a really good idea because the series had just continued to kind of have these legs after those couple of years, but we weren't really sure. And I've said this in my talks, but I started writing the book. I pitched the idea, and my editor was like, "Well, I like it, but I can't get you a deal, until after Christmas." And I don't know. I like it, but they might say no. And so I wrote it anyway. And so it was kind of and I thought, well, if they don't buy it, I'll do something with it.
Yeah, she wrote 4,000 words a day for 20 days, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is like for I guess for people who aren't professional writers, that's like warp speed.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's like
total
fiction on Red Bull.
Well,
that's like Lois Lane at the typewriter.
But I'm going to say this too, and I think that goes back to the point of series. When I know that town so well, and I know those women.
She froze up.
Oh, you froze.
Oh, are we back?
You're back.
Okay. Thawed.
It was really fun. So anyway, thanks guys for being there and supporting me and helping me power through to write it.
Right. Block says she's a machine.
You left us in the dust, baby.
I know. You were like, I'm going to join you. And then the next thing you know, we were just looking at smoke, baby. Just smoke.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Y'all, we want to remind you, all of you out there, to check out our Friends and Fiction Writer's Block podcasts. Mm-hmm. We will always post links under announcements each time a new one goes out. It is so much fun with our rock star librarian, Ron Block, and it's totally different from the show. So if you like hanging out with us here, we know you love hanging out with us there. And he might be stopping by the after show. I'm not positive. Maybe. Anyway, they are every Friday. And this past week, Ron and I talked to Kristy. Ron talked to me and to Kristy about our new novels. I've been on the road. Y'all give me a break. And this week, Ron talks with Jenna Bloom about her memoir, Woodrow on the Bench. And to quote him on an email to me, get your Kleenex.
Aw, that's going to be a good one. Well, speaking of people who may or may not be appearing on the after show, we neither confirm nor deny. Lisa and Brenda Gardner run our phenomenal, I just added an extra syllable, official Friends of Fiction official book club, which is a group that's separate from us. They're 9,500 members strong. I mean, they're just growing and growing. This month, they're reading Once Upon a Wardrobe by Patty, which they'll be discussing with Patty on November 15th. So it's a great group. It's an extension of this group, but they do so much more, different stuff, and it's just a great place to be.
Yeah, and next week, join us right here at 7 p.m. as usual, as we welcome Zibby Owens. And then in 2 weeks, join us and meet Armando Lucas Correa and Catherine Ray. And if you're ever wondering what's on our schedule or our dance card, it's always on the Friends and Fiction website, as excuse me, as well as the sidebar of events on our Friends and Fiction Facebook page. And one more thing, YouTube, which is, you can do more than learn how to paint a pumpkin on YouTube. We want to remind you, we're on YouTube. Every week we are live there. The show stays there with titles, and now we have clips of each show, so you can watch bitches and pieces at your leisure. Bits and pieces, I can say that. Just head over to Friends and Fiction YouTube. What are you laughing about?
We're laughing at you saying I can say that.
I can say bitch if I want to. You're not the boss of me.
We know we are not. We know.
We're aware.
Okay, so go to Friends and Fiction YouTube and click subscribe. And you can catch us too on the brand new Loco Plus platform, which just launched last week.
And that's it. That's me. And that's it. That's my cue. That's it for our show tonight. But as always, we'll be continuing the celebration on the after show. So stick around after the credits roll to find out what's written on Mary Kay Andrews' hat.
Yes.
Suspense is killing us.
And we'll be talking a little bit more about the world behind Christmas at Peachtree Bluff, celebrating with our dear friends, Ron Block, Lisa Harrison, and Brenda Gardner. And we thank you so much for your support. I hope you'll consider picking up Christmas in Peachtree Bluff. And we'll see you back here next week, same time, same place, as we welcome Zibby Owens. See you in 30 seconds in the after.
Buy her damn book.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. You can join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here.
I knew it. Oh, we were betting whether you come back with the hat on.
I can't even really tell what it's on it. What is on
It says Happy Holidays.
Oh my god.
Because several somebodies decided to ridicule me because I was trying to be all hip and trendy, and I might have said holla, and then
Did you already have that hat, or did somebody?
no,
gift it
Kristen
to you?
sent it to me. There's a T-shirt too.
Oh my god!
And it's like a tidal wave of ridicule. Can you see it? It's supposed to light up. There's like a button that says on off. But
Oh my gosh! And you got to tell everybody what somebody brought you when we were on book tour last week.
I will. So when we were in Sanibel sometime in the past 2 days, someone brought me a loaf of challah bread.
Was it Nancy Stetson?
It was Nancy. Yeah, it was Nancy Stetson, a great writer who did a feature story for the Southwest Florida paper about all four of us. And she brought me a loaf of challah bread.
That's
So,
hilarious.
yeah.
Okay, Kristy, how are you feeling about the book and your tour so far? And tell us everything. Tell me how you're feeling. And
being with you guys has been so much fun. Seeing all of our friends in fiction people has been so much fun. I want to put some peer pressure on from the outside because I have really suggested that that everyone come on tour with me on March 29th for the wedding veil. And like, I'm not having any takers so far. So friends in fiction, if you could just really like plug that we think that would all be a really fun idea. No, but it's just so fun to all be together. I mean, it's just so fun to like be on stage together and talk together and just to see all of these amazing friends and fiction readers and non-friends and fiction readers too that we're indoctrinating slowly.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, Kristen brings the snack and the wine game. It's like a major snackage wine game that Kristen has going on.
And the question game, the Q&A game, man.
Yeah.
She's so good.
Did you guys invite me for the snacks and the wine? Is that what this was all about? She doesn't really have a new book, but we kept you for the great question.
Why would you ask that?
My favorite.
Why would you think that?
You should see the spread that she brought up here tonight. I mean, all the food, it's unbelievable. She like really fed me and it's incredible. But also I think my favorite moment of tour was when Kristen asked Patty a question, and I did it too. So I'm not saying this about you. Like, and Patty said, gosh, I have to think about that. You know, we didn't know what she was going to ask. And Kristen was like, I sent all of you the questions for all of the events.
I read the questions. I want that known. I read the questions. I was prepared.
Patty and I didn't read the questions.
I never would have called it out, except Patty was like, well, she didn't send us the questions. I was like,
I didn't mean it that way. I was like, oh, I have to actually think about that. I didn't know what you were going to ask.
Well, to be fair, my book's been out for a month. So
yeah, that's true.
Right.
All I'm doing is trying to finish a book on tour. That's all.
Yes.
Okay, so my report cards might have said a couple times, Patty was unprepared. So you're just echoing the sentiment that has been stated in previous times.
Well,
my report card always said, Kathleen visits with her neighbors, which means won't shut up.
Yeah.
I will just let you know that we're all reading a lovely script for our after show here that someone who was in no way, shape, or form in charge of tonight's show had to write.
It's all right.
I know.
So basically,
I'm just bossy. That's what you're saying. I'm bossy, but I bring the food and the wine, and it all smooths out.
When Kristen gets here, we can all relax because we know it's going to get done. It's basically what
Which knows it's all going to be okay.
It's all going to be fine. Kristen's here, and she will fix it. It's just Kristen will fix it.
I'm going to put that on stickers or something.
Yeah.
Kristen's all right. I think we have guests.
So let's
we have guests.
Ron and Lisa and Brenda and Sean and Meg and talk a little bit about
the gang's all here.
Holla.
Hi, guys.
Holiday. I feel like we need a legit Friends in Fiction Christmas t-shirt that says Happy Holidays.
Well, no, Kristen sent
Mary
one to
Kay's
me. She can send you the link. Kristen can send.
We need your face on it, like your whole face.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Thank you, Ron. I got one vote.
Yeah.
Look,
I have one. I have another.
Kristen's popping the champs now.
Well, we're celebrating somebody's new book, and I'm just drinking. So,
well, thank you guys so much for joining me to celebrate. And Christmas in Peachtree Bluff is about a family who gathers against all odds to salvage an incredible Christmas full of love and heart after the storm of the century rips their lives and their towns apart. So I don't think any of us have had anything quite that devastating as the loss of our homes right before the holidays. But there have probably been some challenges that we've all had to overcome at Christmas time, or maybe even challenges that you're facing this year. So if that's the case, I'd love to hear about that. And if not, I'd love to hear about your thoughts of the magic and power of the holiday season to wash away our troubles and fill us with hope and love and joy. So our darling Ron, can you start us off?
Why do I gotta go first?
Well, because if we ask Kathy to go, if we ask Mary Kay to go first, this is what she'll do. No.
She does.
All right. Okay. So I'm hoping that we're going to do a special podcast for the holidays, and I'm saving a story for that one.
Okay,
But-
tell us that story then.
But for tonight, I have, everybody who knows me knows that I grew up in a very small town, and there wasn't a lot of people around and stuff. But one of the things I loved, and it didn't always happen on Christmas, but maybe soon afterwards, but there was always this beautiful snowfall that came down, and you could see it reflect in the lights. And as it came down and kind of landed on the street, no snow plows. That's when it really felt like Christmas. It felt like the holidays and a new beginning. And it was just really awesome. And I still think of it today.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's
That
beautiful.
is awesome.
Oh, Lisa, it looks like you're up.
Lisa's up.
Sean can appear on the show and part behind the scenes magic.
For me, I haven't really had too many challenges around the holidays, but last year, because of COVID, it was such a challenging time. I decided to put my Christmas tree up in July last year, and I never took it down. I'm like, look, there are no rules. Christmas tree's up. I have Halloween decorations on my Christmas tree right now.
Oh my gosh.
I'll take them off. I put St. Patrick's Day decorations on there. It just brightens my living room and makes me feel good through a challenging time. So I feel like the holidays can always make you smile no matter when it is. So that's
you
what I
have
say. My
pictures?
Christmas tree is permanent.
Permanent. And we had a tree in our backyard that we put Christmas lights on a year ago, and they've never turned off. We've left them up all year.
Oh,
It's the same thing as you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so Brenda, my darling, what about you?
Yes, well, I would say one of my favorite traditions is my daughter and I putting up our Christmas tree, which sometimes I have a real tree, but I have this large artificial pre-lit tree, and each year we get to struggle with the 3 pieces it's in and getting them all out of the closet and getting them all together and all of the lights working. But I look forward to it. And then she gets to hear the story of all the ornaments every time, and she loves it. I can tell you.
That's awesome.
Meg, what about you? I keep forgetting I'm supposed to be calling y'all.
So this is actually very prescient considering your book, Kristy, and the date on the calendar today. But Superstorm Sandy was in 2012, pretty much on this set of days. It went on for days and days. But Dr. Doom, Jim Cantori himself, was here.
We prefer Storm Stud.
Dr. Doom, he's got a lot.
Dr. Doom is a much more appropriate name.
It's just like your book, but the reason why it affected our Christmas was because we lost our entire HVAC system in our house and our family room. We have like a sunken LOL level in our house, and that was filled with river that came in through the crawl space and sort of devastated our family room and my husband's office and the garage and the crawl space. But what was in the crawl space was the entire heating and cooling system for the whole house. So we didn't, in the whole run up to the holidays, which is supposed to be super festive, it was not. And it took weeks and weeks to get, because it was a huge project to redo the HVAC system. And we didn't get heat back until December 23rd.
Oh my gosh.
And we were determined to make Christmas normal. I mean, my kids that was 9 years ago. They're going to be 18 and 20. So they were little, 9 and 11. And so we tried to make it as normal as possible. We were decorating and we put the tree up and we put it in a different spot and we made sure the house looked as good as it could. Just don't turn around because it's a shit show behind you. And the decorations on the outside were great. But we went in the garage to retrieve our Christmas decorations to decorate the tree. And all the boxes, we didn't realize all the boxes, water had gotten in, river water had gotten in.
Oh.
And they were all ruined, all the ones the kids made, all the handmade ones, covered in black mold. And so this does have a happy ending. I think, I put it up on Facebook, not as like a woe is me, but just as like, what else could happen, like, good God. And I said, like, we lost most of our Christmas decorations. Well, that day and for the next 3 or 4 days, people just started showing up with stuff and delivering things and shipping things. And we have the most spectacular collection of Christmas tree ornaments because people were like, here, take this whole box of stuff we're not using, or I just ordered you these 12 things from Pottery Barn or whatever. So people really did come together, and we made the best of it. And then the heat did come on 2 days before Christmas, and that was that warmed things right up. But
wow, I never knew
I
that.
love that story.
That's man.
All right, Sean, what about you?
Oh, I was all prepared to be funny and witty, but I just remembered.
Oh, you do it.
Oh no!
Please.
I just remembered last Christmas, my dad had COVID and he was in the hospital, and he was like a step away from getting on a respirator, and it was just we were just calling every day. I'm here in New Mexico. My whole family's on the East Coast, and my sisters went to help my mom and take care of all that stuff, and it felt really weird to be so far from it, And thank God my dad had a full recovery, got out of the hospital, and still
Good.
Dad.
Awesome.
That was a hard one, definitely.
Yeah, thank God for that. I remember that. Yeah.
Kathy, Mary Kay, what about you?
Well, one year, I don't know, 9 or 10 years ago, in our previous house in this same little Mayberry with Cocktail neighborhood that we've lived in for so many years, everybody knows how much I love to decorate for Christmas. And so we've been on the neighborhood Christmas tour of homes, I don't know, maybe 5 times. So we were on the Christmas tour of homes that year. And of course, I'd made my whole family insane by saying, "You've got to do this, get out." And so we had put up the Christmas tree in this little sunroom in the front of the house. And my husband had strung the lights, and I had put my whole collection of vintage glass, shiny bright ornaments on it. And some neighbor friends, jokesters, were walking up to the house to give us some crap about, are you guys going to be ready? Have you swept the house? Because I was making everyone insane. And as they were walking up, the Christmas tree went boop, 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 boom.
Oh.
All the glass ornaments shattered, and these two guys looked at each other and went, "Dude, we're out." And they ran away. And then my husband, Mr. MKA, basically ended up, I don't know how many were smashed and ruined, but we had to have the tree back up. So he literally wired the tree to the wall.
Oh my gosh.
And then I went out and bought more ornaments. So it does have a happy ending. Hoarder's gonna hoard.
Decorator's gonna decorate.
That's right.
That's right. I don't think I've ever had anything super challenging or terrible happen at Christmas time, but I remember last year, just in the midst of COVID, and you guys all know we were playing it so safe, and we were being
frozen.
anything. So did we come back? All of these normal Christmas things we did. Like I said earlier, our tradition was always going to Disney and doing the monorail loop at the hotels. We didn't do that. And I felt very responsible for making Christmas magical for a 4-year-old, because that's the age. You only have those few years where it's pure and magical, and even everything related to the Christmas spirit. And I was so worried about disrupting that. But I think that what we learned at the end of the day was it wasn't about places you go or the gifts you give or any of those things. It was that we were together and we were safe and we were with our family and we loved each other, and we were surrounded by love. And I think that's something that Christmas in Peachtree Bluff celebrates too. They don't have the Christmas that they're expecting to have, but they have each other, and that at the end is what matters. That's true. Yeah,
That's true. That's true.
So true.
Patty Henry.
Well, I was going to tell I knocked over the Christmas tree story, but it's not. I was pregnant with Megan, and she was a week overdue, and we decided to have a dinner party. And I was so proud of how I decorated the house. We'd only been married a couple years. We had this new house. I was pregnant with our baby. And I went behind the Christmas tree to turn up the stereo for the Christmas music and forgot about my stomach. So I knocked down the entire Christmas tree and it went shattering everywhere. And anyway, but I think, when we talk about trying to find and fill it with hope and love and joy, it's never about all the presents and all of that. But I was really, really sad last year because I didn't get to see my daughter and son-in-law and granddaughter, for that whole time during COVID. And Christmas has always been a big family holiday. All the parents, all the the whole thing. And at the last minute, they were able to come, and the entire house was full of toddlers and my sister-in-law and my nieces and both sets of parents. And it was just, it was like a movie where we thought it was going to be this empty sadness, and it was pure and utter chaos. And it was amazing.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Well, I guess this influenced Christmas in Peachtree Bluff, but the first Christmas after Florence, we were in this little condo, and I remember my husband being like, let's just get like a little tiny tree, and I was like, absolutely not. We were having the biggest Christmas we've ever had, and I went and bought this giant tree. One could walk around in the condo. Like, if you wanted to get to the kitchen, you had to walk around the tree. If you wanted to get to our room, you had to walk around the tree, but man, we were having that tree. And so the next year, we moved back into the house right after Thanksgiving. The first night that we were there, I turned the bathroom on upstairs. The plumbing exploded and it flooded the downstairs living room. And to the point, some of our workers cried. They were like, "How can this happen? This cannot happen." So they were great, and they tried to put it back together really quickly. But we had to get our Christmas tree, so we had this whole front part of the house that was being fixed again, and had the ceilings and walls all out again, being fixed. And so we put, and all the brand new furniture that was also ruined by the thousands of gallons of water exploding. So we put the Christmas tree somewhere different than where we normally put it, and we decorated, and we had hot cocoa, and we pretended that there was not Visqueen all over the house, and we acted like it was normal. And so the next day, they had worked really hard on the house, and it was getting back together, and someone came to install the new rug in the living room that had just flooded. And they had it on a dolly, and they whipped the dolly around. The rug went into the Christmas tree. It fell over. It smashed all the ornaments on the side. And Will and I were married December 29th, so we had all these hand-blown ornaments. And little Will was there, and I remember him looking at me because I'm really big on my ornaments. And I was like, it's fine. We're going to go out, and we're going to find something new, and we're going to put it on that side of the tree, and we're going to keep going. And so that year, we went out, and we bought 1,000 jingle bells. I'm not really 1,000. It's probably 150, but jingle bells. And we put them all over the side of the tree where all the ornaments had smashed. And so, and every time we would go by, someone would be like, every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. Or, though I've grown old, the bell still rings for me as it does for all who truly believe. So it was kind of good. And now every year we have all these jingle bells, and it's kind of great. So anyway, you just power through, and you make the magic where you can, and you are really grateful for things that you sometimes take for granted, I think. So we're really looking forward to hopefully a normal, great, easy Christmas this year. Fingers crossed.
Here's hoping.
Here's hoping.
Exactly. Here's hoping. But actually, and we were all at Oxford Exchange for Patty's launch, and in Savannah. I mean, not at Oxford Exchange, at the Paris Market, and they had all these beautiful felt ornaments. And I've made a pact with myself that I will never again buy breakable ornaments. I'm just not going to do it. And so they had all these felt ornaments, and I got this huge bag of felt ornaments that I thought Will would really like. So I'm excited to take them to We'll have jingle bells and felt ornaments, and it'll be fine.
All's well that ends well.
Yeah.
Right on.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us here tonight. This was so fun. And holla.
Congratulations, Christine.
Yes.
Congratulations.
I miss you guys. Thank you for coming on tour. And
I
thank
miss
you.
you too.
Thank you for writing
Yeah,
this
buy the
wonderful
damn
book.
book.
Buy the damn book. Buy your book, damn it.
Buy your book.
There
Thanks, everybody.
It's a great book.
Christy. Cheers.
Bye, you guys.
Thank you, Kristy. Enjoy it.